Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 542 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk about a plethora of topics, plethora being a very apt word, after the very fun stream I was just watching. Shout out to Drunk 3PO, who is still streaming right now. Some people might be watching both streams or might still even be over there. And so if that is the case, shout out to him. They're talking about the amazing classic comedy film, The Three Amigos, which is honestly one of my all-time favorite comedies. And just watching them watch the clips from the movie reminded me how much I loved it. And yes, Laura, we are early today. I did want to start a little bit earlier. Mondays have gotten really, really crowded, so there really is no good time to start. And I was hoping to wrap up the show a little bit earlier than usual, so I could spend a little bit of time with the wife after a hectic day, and I have to drive up to Knoxville tomorrow. So wanted to make sure I was able still to get the stream in, and was also able to, to be able to spend time with her as well. So I also remembered that I still have my VPN on, and so if there's any technical issues, I do apologize. Hopefully everything is coming through all right. We are currently live over on YouTube, Ozzy, and Rumble Green Machine. So thank y'all very much for being here. If you are, make sure you smash that like button, light up the fire button over on Ozzy, and smash that Rumble button as well. And let's say hello to the good people in the chat, because tonight we're going to talk about the Captain America Brave New World box office. There is a lot of misinformation out there about this movie. There is a lot of accounts running with hard to believe that it is honestly hard to believe that any credible person is actually accepting this $180 million production budget that's been kind of just shoved in our face. And it's kind of amazing how almost like cult-like the narrative has been with you must accept this number, you must accept this number, you must, like, why would we have any doubt of this number? Why should we question or have any any inclination that this is not them being completely 100% honest with us about how much they spent on this movie? And it's just like, oh, all you need to do is look up Caroline Reed over on Forbes, and it'll give you all the evidence you need, the plethora of evidence, right, of how many times the reported budgets for these Disney films have been off by hundreds of millions of dollars almost every single time. At the very least, every time that a film was made in the United Kingdom, when they have to release in their tax returns how much total money they spent on their movies so as they can get their tax return. Really hoping, by the way, that there are some intrepid reporters out there diving into, Georgia law and any other place that they've already filmed in our country, because man, oh man, they think they can get away with it. And I think based off of everything we've seen historically, they might be able to. Might get away with not having to report how much they actually spent on it for us to be able to actually see. But if anyone knows how to, that would be the type of disclosure, I think, which would be incredibly important. And I would honestly argue that anyone who is a stockholder of Disney should try to really dig deep and find whatever legal means they have for Disney to release, not just for this movie, but for any of their movies. Because Disney is propping up their titles, is trying to claim that they are making X amount of money in their productions. But the fact is that when you are claiming to spend X amount of money, when you're actually spending 2-3 times as much, and then you're still getting back the same very small receipts in return, especially compared to other films in your franchise and in your history, and especially remembering you don't get 100% of those box office receipts, guess what? If I was a stockholder, I would be demanding some answers. And I think they should. But let's jump into the chat, as we do have a lot to talk about tonight. We got Thanatos Felicitas hanging out. What's going on, Thanatos? Thank you very much for being here. We had also some people here earlier. We had Snortopoopus Cuber saying, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortopoopus? Welcome back. Always glad to have you here. He also says, hello. We had Bruce in the chat. What's going on, Bruce? Thanks for being here. Wendy Hunter. Wendy. What's going on, Wendy? Got here early, saying hello to you. Thank you for being here. Cthulhu, again, saying good evening and wish you all a happy Monday. Blessed Monday to you. That means now I can close that window out and jump back into the main chat. There he is, Cthulhu. Gary Banjo Edwards saying goodbye to Cobra Kai was emotional after I hated the concept initially and then grew to love it. Yeah, I understand, man. What I honestly can't it's kind of amazing to think back historically on the beginning of that show. It was a YouTube Red product. Back when YouTube Red was a thing. This is something that has been defunct now for years. It didn't last very long. It lasted, maybe a year, maybe two, before it went defunct. It's essentially now what YouTube Premium is, but it's amazing that out of everything that came out of YouTube Red, this show was able to continue to get picked up by Netflix, to continue to move forward, and to do really, really well, to build its audience and to deliver exactly what fans have been wanting, right? It's, again, fan service. It is fan service, and not just for the sake of fan service. It's fan service for the sake of trying to tell a news story while at the same time respecting source material. If you're going to adapt something for the, quote, modern era, that should be used as the mold. That should be used as the general framework that any single studio, that any single creative mind should use. If you are not using the same mold that Cobra Kai did, of how much they respected the source material, of how much they were able to know their audience and to build on that audience as well with newer viewers, unless you're going to do those things, you shouldn't make your show, because it's going to end up being an abomination of epic proportions. And we've seen it happen quite a bit with any adaptation, especially in more recent memory. We got Jeremy Zakowski, evening Odin, and everyone on here. Good evening to you. Indeed, I am early today. Wendy Hunter, sorry to have to leave. Something came up I need to deal with. Well, I hope everything's okay, Wendy. Thank you for stopping by nonetheless. Appreciate you. We got Ambrose Chamberpot hanging out. What's going on? Carl Jacobs saying, is it bad to enjoy the schadenfreude of watching Disney suffer? Only if we are able to do so within moderation, and also as long as we do so with the recognition that we should never find joy in the pain of the human beings that are involved in the process, right? As much criticism as I have, and as legitimate of the criticism that we can have of people like Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy for Star Wars and all the others involved, Bob Iger, we should never allow that to taint our view of them as a human person. Rob D tagging to say hello. Why does everyone keep taking your stream time? I've been here since you streamed on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Yeah, Rob D, I know you're one of my OGs, man. You've been around for a long time, and yeah, I used to stream every Tuesday, every Saturday, and the Tuesday slot was always set because it was always right before, at that time, there was the High Council, and so I always was like the one-man low council. It was meant to be kind of a, hey, let's hang out before the High Council happens, and then the High Council has that time. And then it was working a little bit on Tuesdays because there was Tuesday night's main event, but then Tuesday night's main event kept creeping earlier and earlier, and eventually started before. And so, and there's other people too, and that's why typically I try not to start early on Mondays, because the Force Light Entertainment ladies have been streaming at this time slot for a long time. And so, I feel bad. I don't like over streaming on people or trying to cross the streams in that way. But it is funny that it's like I moved to Mondays to come to a less crowded time, and it ended up being just as crowded. So yeah, let me just say the thought of moving back to Tuesdays has come to mind, because it's like, well, what's even the difference? It seemed that Tuesdays may have actually worked for more people, but I'll let y'all know if that does happen, and I will, of course, let y'all vote on it as well, because it could be a bit of whiplash of being like, what day are we starting on? What is this? The issue also is it's not a really good time. There's just so many people in our space, and it's a good thing, right? It means more voices, more choices, more minds, but it also means it's that much more difficult to try to make something work for everybody. Jimmy A, is it possible Captain America Brave New World that might be the most expensive movie of all time? Maybe that or Mission Impossible 8. I don't think that Captain America Brave New World will be the most expensive movie of all time, and the reason why is actually pretty simple. Star Wars. Star Wars, and there might be an argument out there for Avatar, but Star Wars really, it's kind of insane. People I think are honestly forgetting about it, that when it came to the Star Wars numbers, when we found out after the fact how much those budgets actually were, it was kind of crazy. Like, so just people have forgotten this, okay? The Force Awakens cost $447 million to make. Rogue One was $232. Last Jedi was only $300. And then the last one, Rise of Skywalker, ballooned all the way up to $416 million. So just in those movies alone, just in the Star Wars alone, you had films that likely cost more money. Those are just the budgets, by the way. Those are not with marketing. The Force Awakens with your typical marketing spend. So this is just assuming you're spending 1.5 times your budget in addition to your budget. $670 million total cost. So Force Awakens actually, as far as what the total box office brought in for it, after you subtract everything and remember how much it gets return on investment, it actually only made $277 million in net gain profit. Now, it made a lot more in other, revenue streams, right? It's made a ton of money from other revenue streams, especially when it was, lent out to TBS, TNT. I know it's been put out on terrestrial TV, especially since that movie came out a long time ago before the streaming wars really ramped up. So it's made a lot of money, right? In other revenue streams and from other revenue streams, but theatrically it was not nearly as big of a hit as what some people might have suspected because of just how much money it actually spent, how much money rather it actually cost to make the movie. So yeah, those are at the top of the list. Endgame cost about $400 million to make. The fact that this movie likely cost as much as Endgame is kind of insane to think about, right? I think that we could at least be honest and fair and say that, for the sake of argument, let's just assume and be charitable and say that the film only cost $300 million. Even if that's the case, in today's market, with how much more money it likely will make internationally versus domestic, you're still looking at a 3-time multiplier most likely. Meaning that at a $300 million budget, you would need to make around $900 million just to break even. If the film cost any more than $300 million, if we're talking $325, $350, and World of Real had those reports, had those inside sources that seemed to indicate it was creeping up towards $375, $400, that means $1 billion is your break-even point for a film like this. But even if you're going to be generous and say only $300 million, guess what? That's still $900 million that you need to make, and this movie's not making that. That's the other amazing thing about some of these just complete shills in mainstream media and how they're covering this movie. And how they're either willfully, pushing people in false directions, pushing false narratives, right? Either knowingly and willingly lying, or are so ignorant that it begs the question of why are they even in this space to begin with? Because one needs only mention what Disney has spent on every Marvel film from the United Kingdom to remind everybody, yeah, that's right, they've overspent on every movie that they've done. Anytime there's been an actual disclosure of how much they've spent, it's always been more. Every time. So why in the world would this time be different? Oh, and it also happens to be the time in which we're not going to get the financial disclosures because they shot in the United States instead. Part of me, if Congress could pass a law that I would support as just a box office coverage guy, man, that law would be all movie studios must disclose how much they spent on their movie and must give line item detail. Because that would make my job a lot easier. But again, obviously, I say that mostly in jest. Scott McKenzie, Hamishel, what's going on, Scott McKenzie? Welcome back. Glad to have you here. Thank you for being a Citizen of Asgard member for 32 months in a row. Mrs. Wingster, thank you, Mrs. Wingster, for being a member at the Citizen of Asgard level for 16 months in a row. Appreciate you. Caveat Ties, what's going on? Keely Chow hanging out. What is going on? Glad to have you here. Geek364, what's up, brother? Got your email, by the way. Sorry if I didn't respond. It's always hectic when the kids are here. Weekends are hectic because the kids, and then weekdays are hectic because of work. Today I actually had the day off, but it was also hectic because you have to adult and do adult things. And so that was, oh man, I had so much stuff that I did today, but I was able to listen to a lot of podcasts, luckily, which is always a nice thing to do. And then I got to drive up to Knoxville tomorrow because of work. So welcome back, E542, good guy. Wish I could have talked to you a lot more at the meetup, and definitely will be reaching out to your email because it'd be really cool to be able to chat. Justin C., what's going on? Welcome. Short is short. Laura, the Mono Major General. I'm always early. I think it's an anxiety thing. Oh, yeah. I totally get it. Totally get it. I'm someone where I would much rather be there early than late. It's easier to handle things as they happen if you're there early than if they are late. Mrs. Wingster, hi Odin. I feel like crap, so I don't know how long I'll be lurking around, Mrs. Wingster. Yes, I'm going to try to not have it be too long of a stream tonight, so I start a little bit early. Probably going to try to wrap maybe around 8:30-ish Eastern. We'll see how things go, because I obviously want to talk about all this stuff without leaving any stone unturned, but also do want to spend a little bit of time with the wife as well. Let's see. Laura saying, we want defunct. Gotta have that funked. We want defunct. Gotta have that funk. Took me a little bit just to get the rhythm right, but yes, I got that reference almost immediately. So appreciate you for being in the chat, Laura. She is the Modern Major General of the channel, and it's always appreciative to have her here. Let me see what's going on. Victor Fontaine, what is going on? Victor Fontaine over on Rumble. I'm just making sure that, because sometimes other messages don't come through, so I was just making sure that there wasn't a rant that I was missing. Keely Chow, everyone's doing great as always. Thank you for asking. And weekend was okay. A bit tiring, but overall not too bad. There it is, Victor Fontaine. Come fly with me, come fly away. Let's get this Asgardian party started. Oh yeah, getting it started early. We got Hardwick, the reason Shira Haas, the Sabra actress in Captain Number 4 is so small is that she had kidney cancer at age 3. Yeah, I've mentioned this before on the streams that I've been on. It really is a bizarre cast. You're right. So yeah, she had cancer when she was very young, and it stunted her growth. And so because of that, that's why she's so short. But that is still an active choice that the casting director and therefore all of the creatives behind the movie actively made. It's not her fault that she was cast in that role. Obviously, she went out for the part, but clearly the people who were behind the movie thought, oh yeah, it's fine. It's totally going to work. We'll just say that she's a Black Widow and everything will be fine. It's like, no, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough to have it make sense. Geek True 64. What's almost more amazing than Cobra Kai is being what's more amazing than Cobra Kai being good and pretty consistent over 6 seasons is that it actually stuck the landing. Too many good shows are ruined by terrible finales. That's also a great point. And obviously, I won't try to spoil anything when it comes to that because it's still relatively new as far as the Cobra Kai final season. But if you're a hardcore fan, watch it as soon as you can because it's well worth your time, and we can't protect you from spoilers forever. But I would agree. There was really only one thing that was missing for me. But it was something that would have made more sense in my head, and it was kind of this completionist side of my personality. And if you know anything about kind of the history of the Karate Kid franchise, and I mentioned completionist, you probably are already picking up about what that might be. That's not much of a spoiler since it's more about something something that didn't happen versus something that did. But I'll be cryptic for now. John Evan, Retro Guy Bear. What's going on, John Evan Bear? Hello, good sir. Hello to you. John Evans saying, have you ever watched Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack growing up? No, I never did. Never did. Forever Sci-Fi, hail to you. Jimmy A, have you seen the trailer for Black Bag? It looked like an interesting old-fashioned spy thriller, but it looked like it might have spicy scenes. Mildly interested myself. I have not heard of that movie. I have not heard of that film. Excuse me. Laura, 1 vote for Tuesdays, but any day is fine. I appreciate that. Cthulhu, honestly, if you want an open space, Sunday is not occupied for this content. Might even be nice to continue to include Saint of the Week history. It's a good point. But that's the ultimate issue, though, is that it is Sunday. And so it is the Lord's Day. It's meant to be a day of rest. So I try to avoid doing stuff like that on Sundays for that very reason. It might be. That's probably why it's a good day, because it's typically a family day for most people. And it's, yeah, I mean, that... Jimmy A, 2 votes for Tuesday. I missed Tuesdays. No reason why. I just liked it. It really, I mean, I was on Tuesdays for so long. So I think it was just that also it's like, oh yeah, that's when Odin is streaming. And so even when there were multiple streams, people at least, knew what was going on. King and Rumsky, hello, nice. How's it going today? Going so far. Going so far. Going well so far. Raichu, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. I'll jump ahead here to highlight your message. Thank you for being so generous, saying, meat lovers pizza, yay or nay? Mostly yay. Mostly yay. It really depends on what is on it. I am one where it's weird. I don't like ham. Of all the meats, ham is just one I've never really liked all that much. Canadian bacon, I guess, would be included with this. But if it's got bacon on it, if it's got sausage pepperoni, bacon, sausage, pepperoni, those three are pretty solid. And if the other ones are, if there, any other kinds are on there and they're kind of diced up, it'll probably be fine. I'd probably enjoy it. But I know that at our school cafeteria, when there's not a whole lot of options, if there's ever a meat lovers there, that's usually my go-to, because yeah, bacon. I mean, for me, bacon, pepperoni are like my key. Having sausage is okay too, but yeah, meat lovers is good. Meat lovers is good. And I'm sure no one is going to try to take that out of context. Thank you. I appreciate that super chat, Raichu. Justin C. The Dial of Destiny certainly cost the studio a lot. Yes, indeed it did. Right? I didn't mention it, but it was also on my my little cheat chart. Yeah, that one. It's funny because I honestly haven't actually double checked Dial of Destiny budget, because was that one that we finally got? Dial of Destiny cost $387 million is what the Google's is saying to me. But let's see the article from Forbes, because that's Caroline Reed. Caroline Reed is phenomenal. It says Disney spent $100 million more than recent estimates have suggested on making Dial of Destiny. So it's not even just in Star Wars, it's not even just in Marvel. Disney always overspends. It's a huge problem for them as a company. And so, yeah, I mean, Forbes.com has the coverage there. It says, in reality, it may have been much higher than that, as Deadline's $300 million estimate of its production cost was conservative, to say the least. Yep. $300 million production cost was a conservative estimate. Thanks, because of the UK tax returns, we now know that film cost a lot more than just $300 million. And that is the reason why we, again, it says here, converting the total of US dollars using the exchange rate at the time of writing gives $387 million. But if the rate on the date of each set of financial statements is used, it yields $402 million, which is $100 million more than Deadline claimed. Ultimately, what that means is when the article was being written, the exchange rate would have made it $387 million in total budget. But at the time in which the actual documents were filed, the exchange rate was different, and so it actually would have been $400 million. So yeah, we're talking about a movie that cost roughly $400 million to make, and that was, again, Dial of Destiny. So based off of everything that we know, that's why it's so infuriating to talk to some of these people who have just no sense of history, have no idea what they're talking about, and are somehow in this space. Like, you all know, I used to talk about Tony at Deadline all the time, and I kind of stopped referring to his articles all the time because it was getting a little bit grating on me, because his puns were always ridiculous. But it's also because he's just a straight up shill, and he's trying to spin the box office for this movie's weekend as somehow a positive, with certain things that are just downright lies and very clever half-truths as well. And we'll dive into that. Rob D, I still remember 2007 when Pirates of the Caribbean World's End was the most expensive movie at $300 million. It's kind of crazy how far we've gotten. Con lives. Con, what's going on? Orange Chat, taking a break from Assassin's Creed. Stories for tomorrow's support. I appreciate that, Orange Chat. I did start early today, so I do appreciate you being here. Super Anime Gamer. Hey, what's up, my dude? What's up, Super? Welcome back. Kincaid and Rumsky. Saturday nights are also good for me if you want to move your show again. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I got rid of that one was because it's one of those things where, because Friday Night Tights, is such a long show, and because of, luckily we have gotten a lot more, the show has gotten a lot more tight as far as timing. We start much closer to the start time, and we end almost exactly at 4 hours or a little past 4 hours, which is good because it's easier to plan. But there was a long time, especially when it started maybe a little bit later, where it'd be going on sometimes 5-6 hours, and it would eat up the Friday. It would just eat up the entire Friday night. And, when you're married, especially when you have kids, Friday nights are very important. And because I was streaming on Saturdays on my own channel, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we need to at least have one of these nights available. And so that was a family decision, and I don't regret that at all. It's obviously fun to do those Saturdays, but I do like having that night as a family night. Abomination over on Odyssey. Hope everybody is ready for Comrade Falcon to have a 97.2% drop next week, because that's the only thing that can win me that bet. It's not going to drop that much, Abomination. Why would you take that bet, man? That's the real question. Is this oh man, I'm almost forgetting. Didn't you bet that it would only make an X amount of money? Like let's be honest, based on the numbers we're seeing, the range as of right now, and this can change, but the range as of right now is between 450 and 650 worldwide is likely where the film will end up, based purely on where most average films perform. Most films do about 30% of their entire global box office in their opening global weekend. Using that as a metric, that would mean that this movie is going to get what $530 million, I think is the metric that I was able to figure out in my chart the other day for the box office breakdown. But basically 500 plus million is what it would be looking like at an average. If this movie, though, has a massive drop, and historically MCU films have much stronger opening weekends than not. And if you remember, this movie has not gotten a lot of very strong praise. It is the lowest, and you all know I cannot stand CinemaScore, but CinemaScore, it's the lowest rated CinemaScore of either of any MCU film, or at the very least of any of the Captain America films. And normally, again, I question their methods and their methodology, especially since they don't really release any of the actual raw data. They just give you a score and say, trust us. It's okay, trust us. Nope, I say nay. Just like with Rotten Tomatoes, I say nay. But yeah, I mean, do expect at least at bare minimum 65% drop from week 1 to week 2. But yeah, you could easily see, because the word of mouth on this not being that great, drops in the 70s as well. The only thing it has going for it is the fact that there's no other major releases coming out for the next couple of weeks. So there's nothing else out. So you might have some people who end up going to see it because they go to the movies every weekend and there's nothing new to go see, and so might as well go see that instead. Or you have there are some that wait for crowds to die down, right? And this movie was pretty crowded. I didn't get to see it on opening night in the IMAX show, but the pre-sales in my local IMAX, again, for what I typically see, it was pretty strong there. But every market's different, and the numbers from the weekend are very clear. In fact, they did adjust down. We'll talk about that too, the nonsense from Box Office Mojo and how people are running with that as actual fact. They actually did, though, adjust the numbers down for the 3-day total. Not by much, but still. Jimmy A. Now, the media would be trying to spin that as a success. Yeah, absolutely. Hardwick. I finally watched Oculus 2013. It was well made, and Karen Gillan was as good as usual, but I didn't like the final act. That said, if you liked Smile, you'd probably like it. I tolerated Smile. I thought it was fine. It's just horror is not my genre, so I'll never watch Smile again. I've heard good things about Oculus, though. I have heard good things. Laura saying, finish Cobra Kai today. Good way to spend the day. That's a great way to spend the day, Laura. That's a fantastic way to spend President's Day. Kimberly G. Hi, everyone. Is anyone else over winter, too? We've had snowstorm after snowstorm. I would maybe if we actually got it here in southeastern Tennessee. I'm actually hopeful because we're supposed to maybe get snow on Wednesday. And I love snow, and we don't get it enough, and so that's why I don't have that feeling. But if you were dealing with it all the time, I could totally see why that could definitely be grating over time for sure. So we'll jump back into the comments in a little bit, but I do want to actually cover the various topics of the day. And so, starting things off, we of course are going to talk about some box office stuff. And so you all know that means if we're going to talk about box office, we got to lay something out there and we got to set something straight.
Time to see a real mathematician at work.
That's right. It is time to do some math. But actually, even before that, I wanted to give a special shout out to Drunk 3PO. As I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, I was watching his stream, commenting in that chat, and man, oh man, so Jay has a great show where they're going back watching a lot of retro films. And this week's film was Three Amigos, and just watching him and his panel watch clips of the movie made me laugh and made me nostalgic to want to watch this movie again. And then I realized I didn't put my review in on Critic List yet. So this film, 9 out of 10, 90% most excellent film, classic comedy, one of my favorites of all time. And again, shout out to Jay for putting a smile on my face. It was kind of a rough day for different reasons, and so this definitely raised my spirits quite a bit. Seeing those clips and just reminding me of how amazing that movie is. Anyway, let's go to the box office. Okay, so if you have not read my article at geeksandgamers.com and you are looking for some reference about, okay, you have all these social media accounts, whether they be these promoted accounts, these official accounts for certain corporations and companies that are there trying to spin the narrative and, through culture, through box office, through news media, whatever it might be. And they're pushing all the false narratives of the budgets or anything. You're looking for something to push back against. I tried to make this article one that you could use as a reference. I'm not saying, by the way, that I'm a great writer. I have a lot of flaws. I do not think of myself as a great writer at all. In fact, writing is something it's hard for me to do. It's one of the reasons why I love Critic List, because it actually makes me want to write reviews. And it's one of the reasons why, of course, I love being a part of the Geeks and Gamers team, because I love writing my box office article every week. And this week, I did want to make sure I covered as much ground as I could, because there is so much misinformation out there about this movie. And ultimately, as you can see from the headline that I wrote for this article, Captain America Brave New World sees worst opening of the franchise. This is a fact statement. This is not an opinion statement. This is a fact. And the issue is, right now, a lot of the mainstream media and a lot of people online and social media, and a lot of it in my comment section even as well, are just running with false narratives, or at the very least do not know anything about the box office or how it actually works. So I wanted this article to be there for people to be able to push back with, and to at least to be able to, guard yourself with facts and with information that you can also look up and verify and test yourself. So, as I have here in the article, the time of speculation is finally over, and while shills over at Deadline like Tony continue to run with the same tired pro-Disney propaganda, the numbers are quite clear. Captain America Brave New World is in some trouble, both domestically and internationally, regardless of how much the movie cost. To make the point as clear as we can, we will be utilizing the metrics from the 2023 release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, due to the fact that it was released over the President's Day weekend that year, reportedly had a similar budget, later proven to be false, and so far has almost the same exact rating from both audiences and critics at the often criticized, for good reason, review site Rotten Tomatoes. So I tried to lay out in the beginning of the article that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Mania, is a good map to use to really understand exactly what is going on with this movie. It's a film that came out the same weekend, President's Day weekend 2 years ago. It's a movie that reportedly cost the same amount of money. However, just like we are now seeing with Captain America Brave New World, it turns out the amount of money that we were told initially on Quantumania was incorrect, was off by about $130 million, in fact. And again, thanks you to those UK tax returns, we were able to find out that the film actually cost $330 million net. Right, that was after their tax incentives. The film itself actually spent more than $330 million to make it. That's before your marketing, too. But because of that tax credit, they only really spent a net spend of $330 before their marketing cost. So really, Quantumania is a great film to use as a comparison with it, okay? So, starting with the opening box office analysis and comparison. Currently being reported that Captain America 4 made an estimated $88.5 million domestically and roughly $180.9 million at the global box office. We now have some updates, and this is also an opportunity to kind of try to do away with the nonsensical $192 million number that's been floated around by a lot of people. So for starters, we have an update. So $88.5 million was the initial estimate. That's dropped to $87.8. So the 3-day total, if we're talking Friday to Sunday, so that includes your preview numbers as well on Thursday, that went from 88.5 to 87.8. This happens, right? We have estimates, and then after we get some box office data, we get the actual numbers reported by the studios in. Those numbers get updated, and turns out it actually went down. So the estimate 88.5 actually made less, 87.8. That's really not that much of a difference, though. So that's not typically one that I would use as a key piece of evidence. The issue that I have, though, is in this $192 million number. So remember, as of right now, $180.2 million is what the film has actually made worldwide. Going to my article, right, $180.9. So it's $700,000 less than the initial estimates had it for its opening 3-day total. I keep mentioning, by the way, 3-day total because the number that people keep citing that has $192 million, some have even rounded that up to $200 million for their opening weekend, is because they're going off to places like Box Office Mojo, which this was also live yesterday, had already included their Monday estimates of $11.5 million for Captain America Brave New World. The issue with Box Office Mojo is they are notorious for this. Whenever there's a holiday weekend, especially if it's like a 3-day weekend, they usually on Sunday will have their totals updated to include what they think Monday will actually turn out to be. The issue with that is that it is really not a good metric, and it's really not a good scientific analysis of the market. The reason why is this. When you have the estimates come out on Sunday for the box office, they can sometimes be off by a couple of $1 million or so. But they base those estimates off of what they see the Thursday numbers, what those premiere numbers are. They then see what is the total Friday. And the most important number to really figuring out what the actual box office estimate for the weekend will be is what is that Friday to Saturday drop? Because they get their numbers in on Friday, they get their numbers in on Saturday, and so then on Sunday, what they can say is, okay, here's what we saw drop-wise between Friday and Saturday. We can now estimate based off of what we typically historically see most movies who have a Friday to Saturday drop-off in this range, what the most likely scenario for the Sunday will be. Now, again, there could be a Super Bowl Sunday situation where Sunday is a lot worse than maybe what you historically will on average see, but that's how they're usually able to get that point. So it's one where it's not something you have a lot of confidence in because a lot of things can still happen on that Sunday. It could overperform, it could underperform, but there's at least a general idea of where the film likely will go. When you then go on to extend that out to the Monday, it becomes that much less certain. The issue also is that it means that people, when they go to this site, Box Office Mojo, they see $192 million being reported, when the reality is that the only numbers that have actually been officially reported as of right now are right here on thenumbers.com and right here with $180.2 million, because this does not include the Monday, because we won't get those numbers until tomorrow when we get the actuals for the Monday numbers, okay? So just to try to get that one out of the way first, because people have been running with that one, and I wanted to say that's not the correct number based off of what we currently have in front of us. I've been covering this stuff for a long time. Box Office Mojo is notorious for doing this, and it has caused so many issues, not to mention the times that they have had their data entry messed up as well, and they have reported films as making more than they've actually made. One of my favorite exchanges was when it was, of all people, John Campea was trying to argue some film was a huge hit, huge success, and they were using Box Office Mojo, and needless to say, I was very quick to point out, oh, that's because of a data error. I can literally see why the number says what it does on Box Office Mojo. It's because they clearly had a data entry issue. They clearly did not enter in the data correctly. So that's the first part of this, okay, is what the film actually made. Okay, but what does this actually mean in comparison to some other things, okay? Well, first, before diving deeper in, just talking about the budget, this is where the article goes next. Let's talk about the budget, okay? So the budget that we're being told about is $180 million, okay? There was a report that came out from World of Real. It was picked up by many other places. In fact, it was pretty much a, hey, this seems to be pretty legitimate, was the initial thought. And the report over there said 350 to 375 million was the production budget for this movie before any marketing costs actually, brought into account. It was only recently, only until January of this year, late January, in fact, of this year, that the trades finally started to report what Disney had seemed to tell them and indicate to them, that the movie only cost $180 million instead. I go on. There's no reason to doubt both sides of the budget reporting, since World of Real, which reported the $350 million budget, was basing the number on inside sources speculation, while the mainstream media sources are likely relying on information that the studio wants out. No matter who you believe, both sides can arguably be said to have credibility issues, and neither is perfect in its reporting. So the first thing I do is I say, hey, I'm not just basing my belief of these numbers off of the World of Real's reporting, because there are legitimate criticisms that you can bring up about that reporting. However, one could also very easily critique that report coming out of Disney, because there is a lot more evidence to suggest why, in this specific case, with a Disney budget especially, why $180 million is a complete and utter joke. I go on. The quick answer is that we will likely never find out the total cost of how Disney, because of how they handle their financial disclosures. Basically, because of the fact they did not film in the United Kingdom, we're not going to get those disclosures like we have been for the past several MCU movies. It goes on. Even so, we can still wade our way through the noise and examine some key facts that point rather easily to the $180 million figure likely being inaccurate. One, over the last few years, many of the Disney Marvel productions have had much of their filming occur in the United Kingdom, where their tax incentive structure makes them ideal location for a massive production company. The problem is that the studios are forced to publicly disclose how much money they spend on their movies so that the tax credits they receive can be properly reported. Going back to Quantumania, so this kind of is tying all this together. Quantumania as a key example, it was originally reported that the movie likely cost $200 million. I remember when the movie was coming out. That number was being reported everywhere. Typically, it's because Disney tells the trades, hey, here's likely the cost of this movie. Usually a number is floated out there. That's why it's an estimate. It's a general estimate that people report on, okay? But it was universally reported as $200 million. After several months, and thanks to the intrepid reporting of Caroline Reed over at Forbes, it was revealed that no, the movie actually cost $330 million after the tax incentives were factored in, and this was still without any actual marketing costs being reported. Again, this is a huge factor, and this is a huge reason why anyone who is going to accept that $180 million being reported is honestly naive in a best-case scenario. It goes on. Caroline helped expose how many more Disney movies, especially ones in the MCU, were in the same boat and cost a lot more than reported. Given the pattern of underreporting, the extensive reshoots reported throughout the production of Captain America 4, the lack of disclosure requirements due to the filming in Georgia instead of the United Kingdom, and Disney's broader spending habits within the MCU, the claim that the movie cost only $180 million is laughable, calling into question the credibility of those who accept it. And that is indeed true. And then I go on to say, hey, you don't want to compare this thing franchise, like within the franchise. This is something that Tony has done. He's tried to argue, oh, this film has made more than this Captain America movie, or this film is trending higher than this Captain America movie. One of the things that he's doing, though, is he's using this 4-day total and comparing it to a 3-day total, a non-holiday total of the older films. If you want some real data on this, it goes on to say Captain America 4 is at $88.5 million. That's the lowest opening 3-day total for any Captain America movie. Because the only way you can be fair in your comparisons is to do one of two things. Either adjust all the numbers for inflation or to have ticket sale estimates. Okay, I've done both for y'all. $88.5 million. Okay, that's the least. Because guess what? The first Avenger, the first Captain America movie, when you adjust those numbers for inflation, it's not $65 million, because $65 million in 2011 is worth $93 million today, right? And that also shows you a massive difference because in ticket price sales, and because ticket prices have changed over time, 8.2 million tickets is what the opening weekend sales were like for Captain America First Avenger, whereas in today's tickets, 6.3 million tickets were sold. So to even try to compare this, because the comparison's actually been tried to be brought up against this movie up and putting this up against Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier blows this thing out the water. It's like Winter Soldier had an extra $2 million tickets even on the first Avenger. So it improved its audience quite a bit in its opening weekend. Not to mention, adjusted for inflation, the total box office was like $125 million there. So it's already bad enough when you're comparing it within the Captain America franchise, but even keeping it within the last couple of years. And I'll end this point here before jumping back in the chat. And hopefully everything is making sense. And if you want to slow things down, you can, of course, read this article in more detail. But comparing this to Quantumania really puts these things into perspective, okay? So here is the point. The 2023 release of Quantumania, which had a better domestic opening. So here's the other factor, okay? Just 2 years removed, these are two films that we could easily compare with each other because of what the initial budget estimates we've been told about. $200 million was what we were told for Quantumania. $180 is what we've been told for this movie. There's no reason to believe that that number will not go up, or at the very least is not a correct number. There's nothing in the history of the MCU's budget that would indicate that that number is accurate in any way whatsoever. Anyone who believes it is being naive. But it goes on. The President Day frame was $106 million domestically and $225 million worldwide compared to the $180 million for Captain America 4. So those are just talking about, right, that same total frame, right, that total box office frame, $106 to $225 million worldwide versus $180 worldwide. So just comparing those two movies' worldwide starts. And we all know Quantumania is not talked about as a huge success, especially with those accurate budgets finally being reported. The fact that that movie 2 years ago made $225 million worldwide and Cap 4 is at $180 million, oh boy. Now, you could argue saying, well, wait a minute, we got to wait for those Monday numbers to come in. Okay, guess what? Then you're still talking about a $30 million, $25 to $30 million advantage going towards Quantumania, which ended up crapping out at $450 million, which is just about where we expect on the current tracking of Brave New World to end up as well. Right now, I think $450 to $650 million is likely going to be the end range. $542 million is what an average run would result in if all things remain as such, remain the same. But the budgets on these films and all of the reporting on these films is honestly insane. So hopefully, now that you have a little bit more factual information, factual data, you'll be able to be equipped to handle all the nonsense as it's being pushed going ahead. Anyway, what say you guys? Let's jump into it. Forever Sci-Fi. I saw the superhero landing by Falcon. How does he not break his legs with that? Yep. So many issues with the fact that he is not a super soldier. Jimmy A. I think Shira Haas was cast because they were looking for an Israeli actress. I don't believe there are many working in Hollywood. Well, there is one major actress working in Hollywood, but they wouldn't hire her most likely because of other castings and things like that. Snorter Poopas, what's going on, brother? Let's see. Laura saying mostly yeah. Soul Assassin, who would win, the Three Ninjas or Daniel and Johnny in a fight? Ooh, Three Ninjas. Now that takes me back too. You know what? I don't know, but if the creators behind Cobra Kai are looking for a new project, if they were to adapt Three Ninjas and bring back the original Three Ninjas, I say that I don't know if anything has happened. I really hope that they're all okay. I hope that they're all healthy and in a good place in life. But man, that would be a fun thing to adapt, and that's something where if they had the same mindset for this, they could do a lot with it. I think not as much because I think Karate Kid is clearly a much bigger franchise. But man, Three Ninjas, that was my jam growing up. That was my jam. Now, who would win in a fight? It really depends on, are we talking about adult Daniel and Johnny versus the kids? Is it grown-up Three Ninjas? I mean, these are questions that I still have before I can give an accurate answer. Jimmy A., but what about Meat Lover's Pizza with pineapple? No, because that would destroy it. That would ruin it. That'd be like a dog taking a massive dump on it. Like, why would you do that? That's a great question. Why would anyone do that? Apparently some people do. Geek True 64. No rush to getting back on email. Just wanted to reach out for whenever you have time. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Just know I have received it and I have read it and I appreciate it. Mrs. Wingster. Odin sure loves his meat lovers. How dare you? Steven, been a while, man. Glad to see you live again. I start spring semester for college next week. Will you live stream still be on Monday, 7 Eastern for spring season? So it has been 7:45 usually, 7:45 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. On Mondays. But as of right now, nothing is changing, but I'm definitely becoming more open to moving it back to Tuesdays. But as of right now, still Monday. Cthulhu. The actress playing Sabra as a diminutive woman makes perfect sense. Cough, Epstein, cough. But they didn't have the courage, instead playing it safe at the expense of the actual interesting story. Yeah. And that's the other thing, too, is that they did not have to go the route they did by saying, oh, well, she's, a former Black Widow, and so she can do all the moves. You can make her believable in that role, but she can't fight the way that she was fighting. It would have to be someone who either has an equalizing weapon, which you could easily do, or it would have to be someone who is fighting in a way where it's clearly using the weight and the force of the person attacking against them. Because then at least it makes sense, right? Because I've seen, fights being choreographed that you have someone much smaller than the other person being able to defeat them, but it makes sense for the size difference. The problem with modern Hollywood and the problem with modern MCU films especially is that when they try to put these unrealistic battles in front of us, it's so hard to suspend belief even for that brief moment, because you think, yeah, but that girl would get crushed in real life. There's nothing about what we're seeing right now. She has no actual powers to speak of that would indicate why she could do those things to those people of that size. Disney can use Doge. Man, maybe send Doge in there. Shorty Short. LO, just noticed your new shelves, and now I'm wondering how long they've been there. It's not long. It has not been long, Laura. Yeah, the wife actually installed the extra shelves. And that was, I think it's been at most a month, but probably a few weeks at least. Kikan Rumsky over on Rumble saying, speaking of overspending on Disney movies, does anyone even know where Kathleen Kennedy is? She's somewhere, because there's some Star Wars stuff being made. Whether it ever sees the lights of day and how much money they're going to waste on it is still remaining to be seen, but it is what it is. Keely Chow leaving early. How dare you, Keely? Geek264. Even if you remove the quality of current Disney movies and TV, they clearly have terrible management to have these insane budgets far above industry standards. Agreed. I mean, you said it right. You look at anything coming out animated-wise. You look at anything coming out of DreamWorks. You look at anything coming out of Universal. We're talking about at least half of the cost. Everything from Disney is such a massive overspend to such an insane degree. Again, if you are a stockholder in that company, and if you're not asking questions, and if you're not trying to hold their feet to the fire and demanding answers and demanding transparency, bro, I mean, it's like a house of cards, I honestly think. Like, especially with the current administration, I think there need to be some investigations into what they're doing, because I look at how much their stock value is at, and I've got questions about that, because I know how much money they spent. I've been following this stuff. They're not making a whole lot of money. Like, the amount of money they spend specifically on TV and movies, the amount of money that they spend does not really match up very well to how much they're taking in. It deserves to be looked into, I think. Let's see, Hardwick. If they were looking for an Israeli actress, Bar Rafaela would have been better, but if the Chilean Cote de Pablo could play an Israeli on NCIS, it's not necessary to cast an Israeli. I think in today's world, unfortunately, they're much more PC with that, and so they would probably feel like they would have to cast an actual person from that place, an Israeli actress. Abomination says 200 million. Steven, I'm glad to see you and the other YouTubers calling out the whole Captain America for BS profit. And some news comparing a Cap movie 10 years ago, saying it's made more. Oh, yeah, dude, that's my favorite. My favorite has been how, like, Tony at Deadline's been doing this, but a lot of others have as well. They've actually been, this is crazy, they've actually been comparing the 3-day total of Captain America Winter Soldier to the 4-day total. The 4-day total of this new movie. And yes, that means it includes the completely just out of cold cloth made up number that was put forward by Box Office Mojo. Now, could that number be accurate? It's possible. It's not a completely, irrational number, but it does mean that people were running on Sunday with a total number that included a Monday that had not yet happened. Was not even in the process of happening. At least with the Sunday estimate, you have a day that's in progress. You have a day, like, because again, when those estimates come out, they've gotten some reporting of early Sunday returns, and so they can say, okay, here's what we're seeing, the difference between Saturday and Sunday, and so we can make some estimates from here. They had nothing for Monday yet. You could argue they had maybe pre-sales for Monday, but that's not enough data or information to make that kind of a call. And again, it led to people making the false assumption that the movie had made $192 to $200 million over 3 days, when in reality, no, that's only if you're including this extra 4th day, which has happened so far today, and that's why we'll get our actual Monday numbers reported tomorrow. And is there a chance that it does get upwards of $200 million by tomorrow? It's possible. Again, if Box Office Mojo's numbers are correct, it's actually going to be less. It's going to be 192. But it's crazy. It really is that people don't seem to see that their legs being pulled, and that there is a very easy way to verify this information. Orange Hat, my thought is that the movie will lose $200 million at least and make $100 million in profit, if any. My guess on larger loss is $400 million. Yeah, I mean, if you are looking at the current metric, because really it comes down to price. We just don't know. We really just don't know. So if the number is 300 million, so if assuming, I'll put the chart up so that way people can see, because sometimes my talking can be a bit much, but this is assuming. Let me go ahead and enhance. There we go. If the movie costs $300 million, all right, for Captain America: Brave New World, based off of the numbers currently being reported, that would mean that the movie would be at $365 million in losses as of right now. So that's assuming $300 million, okay? And I think that's a fair number. $180 million is ridiculous. There's just no way that that's how much they spent on the movie. There's just, you look at everything you know about Disney, everything you know about Marvel, all of the overspending they've done in every project, and it's so abundantly clear that that is ridiculous for them to even, suggest that as a production budget number, okay? Now, there are some who might say, but yeah, it probably costs more than that. Okay, let's bump it up to $350. If we're at $350 million of production budget, again, that break-even point jumps that much higher, and that's using an older metric. But as of current data, like what would it be at a loss right now? If it costs that much money, it would be at $440 million in losses as of right now. And that's, again, $350. And if we are just to play this thing out, and let's say it's the high end of $400 million, again, talking about well over $1 billion break-even point, and that would put it at $500 million in current losses. Now, again, we don't know, and we likely never will find out the actual number unless there's some disclosures that come out over the next year or two, which it's very hard to find. The UK numbers were really a godsend in many ways because it was a way for us to really kind of, pull the curtain back on the Disney man behind the curtain, just completely pulling the strings of mainstream media and pulling the strings of everyday regular people. And it's crazy, but $300 million is, I think, a very fair number to give. If that's the case, yeah, we're talking north of $300 million loss there. Now, as I said, I think the film has a good chance of getting upwards of $450 million or more by the end of its run, right? It is right now tracking behind. This is going to be where we're going to compare it going forward. Where does this stack up against Quantumania? If we see a similar drop as Quantumania had, oh boy, danger Will Robinson. I mean, we're talking catastrophic if that is the case. Because if the film only gets to 450-ish million, which is about where Quantumania ended up, even if you were going to argue a $180 million number, that would still be a very, very difficult, prospect, a very difficult, argument to make. And here's the thing, okay? It's ridiculous to suggest it costs anything less than $300 million at this point. But let's just, again, for the sake of argument, say it's $200 million. It would still be $215 million in the red, and you would still need a heck of a lot more money if you were going to make any actual net gain profits at this point in time. So, yeah. So hopefully having the chart in front was able to make more sense of that, as a lot of people have been talking about it. I want to get to some super chats here before jumping into the chat. And again, I do try to get to all the chats if I can. Raiju at 828 said, will Paddington in Peru make profits? Ooh, yeah, this is one where, based off of what we're seeing, it's hard to guess. And it comes down to this. It got an early release internationally, so it's actually already been playing internationally for quite some time in some markets. I think it even opened in November in the United Kingdom. So it's been playing for a long time in a lot of the foreign markets, and it's made over $100 million in the internationals. And that's pretty good. The one hope it really has is the fact that it is making about as much money as the second one did. Even when you adjust the numbers for inflation, obviously we did have this in our topic tonight, so I'll pull this up on the screen. Thank you for that super chat, man, because it's going to allow us to talk about this topic too. So will Paddington and Peru make profit? It's hard to say. It's too early to tell. So these are the comparisons of the 3-day totals for Paddington and really the Paddington franchise. So when you look at the first Paddington film, this was clearly the most successful domestically. That film came out in 2015. Market was a lot healthier back then. $25 million domestic opening weekend. Compare that to Paddington 2, which came out 2018, so that's before the pandemic, so before things went too crazy. That film only made $13 million, and I would actually argue that Paddington 2 was a better film. Now, the movie was able to, overall do a lot better internationally. What's fascinating about the movies here, though, is that the first film, and again, this is why this franchise is very interesting. The first film made $100 million domestically. The second one actually didn't do much. It only did $49 million, which is kind of surprising to look at, because I would have assumed it would have done better because it's actually arguably a better film. I think that Paddington 2 is actually quite good, but it only made $49 million there. However, the international box office obviously came out in much stronger numbers. So because the internationals have been out for a long time, this number is not likely going to become that much higher. So it looks like it's going to start to, it's going to lose money internationally in comparison. Now, again, there are several countries that, that may not have yet been accounted for. So take that international with a grain of salt. But it is important just to note it has already made a lot of international bucks that it won't continue to make because it's been out in various countries for a long time. But domestic opening, $13 million is actually, about on par with where Paddington 2 was, right? $13 million here versus $13.2 million that was made by Paddington 2. And again, that's with adjusting for inflation. And as you all know, I think that's an important factor because it helps to keep things honest, right? So I do think that Paddington Peru, it's not looking great as far as the prospects are concerned. The budget was only about $75 million according to box office, according to the numbers. The reporting that I saw indicated that the production budget was actually around $90 million, which would mean its break-even's actually quite higher. And it would have to make about as much as the other films have made. There's nothing to really indicate that that's going to happen as of right now. We'll know more next weekend. I'll be able to make some projections next weekend on that movie. Just right now, there's not a lot of money for it. I'm hoping that Paddington in Peru, I've heard good things. It's gotten some decent word of mouth. It can leg out a bit. It's a bad time of year, though. If this had been a Christmas movie, if Paddington in Peru had come out over Christmas, man, I think that could have been kind of like a Mufasa situation where it could have made a lot more money over time. So this might have just be a problem in just how they decided to release the movie. But I don't think the Paddington franchise is any danger. This is one of those movies that can do really well on VOD and do really well aftermarket. So I think that by the end of it, right now, it's at $82 million in the red based off of the $90 million production budget, which, again, if that changes, I'll update the chart. But I think it'll be able to probably knock that number down to maybe minus 50. So it'll still end in the red, but I think it'll be able to make it up, post-theatrically is where I would go currently with Paddington. I know I wasn't able to spend a lot of time on Paddington over the weekend, so I wanted to make sure I could cover it tonight. So thank you very much for that super chat, allowing me to cover it. Heartbreak Rage, thank you for being a member at the Citizen of Asgard level. Appreciate you for being a member for 14 months in a row. We got 2 Penny Puppet. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you, Penny Puppet. Saying, I saw 2 movies this weekend, and it was glorious. First up was A Complete Unknown, great movie. Then next up was Becoming Led Zeppelin, another winner. Yeah, I hear if you're a fan of Led Zeppelin, then that film is great. It's a lot of fun. And A Complete Unknown, I've been hearing some good things about as well. No one's seeing it, unfortunately. It's not a big box office maker, but it's on my list of things to watch for sure. There are some good actors in it. All right, let's get back into the chat. Let's see. Rob D803 saying, the amount of panic and chilling that would happen if Captain America 4 dropped 97.2% in week 2. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I think it's because he had bet that it would only make a certain amount of money. And it's like, I guess it was a bet with me. I just forgot it. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to only make that amount of money if I had to guess. And based on these opening weekend numbers, I think 450 is a solid estimate as far as the low end, and a high end of 650. No more than 650 based off what we're seeing right now. Jimmy A. Let's see, tag to say, Captain America has not been very well received, but I don't buy CinemaScore's worst received MCU movie. Quantumania, The Marvels, Love and Thunder had worse reception than this. Yeah, and that's just that reminder that the CinemaScore is just garbage, and it comes down to marketing as well. It's about what they view, whether they think the movie's marketing was accurate or was effective. CinemaScore is really, really bad. It's a very bad metric. And again, they don't release their data. Steven, how was your take on Cobra Kai finale? Did you get emotional? Do you think the ending leads up to the movie? I don't think it leads up to the movie. The movie has been very much feeling like a very separate thing altogether, which I don't think helps the movie. Because, man, had it led up to the movie, that could have been a really, really cool thing and probably could have helped out quite a bit. But yeah, I think that Cobra Kai overall, it was good. I'll give my thoughts about that, and then we'll we'll just go through the rest of the chats that we have. Cobra Kai was really good. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick, so that way we can use it as a metric. But I was able to watch Cobra Kai, the final part of the season, and I was able to watch it with my wife. It's funny because I was actually able to get my wife to watch because I liked it so much, and I thought, you know what, the show has a lot of elements that I think my wife would actually really enjoy, but you're not going to really understand it unless you're able to see the films and actually be able to understand it. So I was the one that kind of dragged her along to have her watch the original Karate Kid movies, parts 1, 2, and 3, and then we were able to watch Cobra Kai. So that way she had that background, right? She was able to have that history, and she really enjoyed them for what they were, and she loved Cobra Kai. I think she probably enjoyed Cobra Kai more so than the movies to a certain extent. And she especially, I as well. I would say I got emotional. No tears were shed, at least, on my part. I don't think my wife had any tears shed either. But it was definitely one that it tugged at the heartstrings in all the right ways. It paid respect and homage to the source material. Again, a very important thing that so many shows and so many things are not able to get done and not able to do well. But yeah, I finally was able to give a review here of the entire series. I give the whole series really at 80%, most excellent score. And my review is this: 80s nostalgia that hits all the right notes and didn't allow itself to go on for too long. The last season was a bit disjointed because of how they split the season up, but luckily the last few episodes especially hit hard and do it right. This is what it means to respect the source material and build on what you have. There were only a couple of wish list items I would have liked to see in there, but it did an excellent job nonetheless. And that really is where I still, after the day after, kind of ruminate on it a bit. That's pretty much where I still stand. The heart of the show really is all about, Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio and William Zabka. Zabka, dude, that guy, he gives a great performance in the entire show. But in these last episodes, there's a conversation that happens between him and Kreese where the entire time I'm like, dude, this guy's giving it. And he's not really known for being a dramatic actor, to that degree, but the dude killed it. Shout out to Zabka, man, because he killed it in this show, but especially in those last episodes and that conversation again with Kreese. So emotional. It does something that a lot of people may not have been realizing they even wanted to happen. There's this sense of closure. There's this sense of completion. And, beyond just that one moment throughout the entirety of the finale, that it's just handled really, really well. So, yeah, I don't like how they handled the last season. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm happy that they were able to extend the ride for as long as possible. But because of how they're doing this pseudo binge model, it also was a bit frustrating too, because I don't think that they really planned out well when each part ended. So it was broken up into 3 different sections. So you had your first third of the show's last season that you got to see, then the second third, and then finally we had the last few episodes. I feel like they should have done a better job of leaving. I think the stopping point between 2 and 3 was good because it left on this huge cliffhanger, and you didn't know what was going to happen. It was like, oh man, things just got real. Whereas the stopping point between 1 and 2 was not as exciting, and it left a lot to be desired. So that's really my only criticism of the last season, and it's really my main criticism of the show is that, yeah, there were times in which the writing could have been that little bit more tight, but man, they did a great job. The kids did a great job. And it was really cool also just to see how some of the actors were able to do a lot of their own stunts, some more than others. And it rocked. Cobra Kai Never Die. Some epic, man, now I'm reminiscing. So yeah, there were some epic lines, epic line deliveries, epic moments that you just never thought you would see happen. And you're totally fine with it. It's something that modern Hollywood would have done in the first episode, and it would have made sense. There would have been no buildup. You wouldn't have had 6 seasons worth of buildup. You would not have had 3 movies and 6 seasons of a show buildup to have those moments happen, to have those revelations happen. And it was good. I guess the only thing else that I would be critical of is that they do use CGI in this show. And in this season, there are especially a couple moments where they try to bring, I guess minor spoiler here. I won't say names, but but I'll say something that for some it might be seen as a spoiler. So just a warning, just for a few seconds. 3, 2, 1. So they bring somebody back using CG effects, deepfake stuff, and I hated it. It's just like, I don't like when they do that. So that's if that's the only thing though that I hate, the only thing that I'm critical of, you got yourself a pretty good show. So kudos to them. They did a great job. All right, let's go ahead and get through the rest of the comments, and I'll try and lightning round as much of these as I can because I do want to try and end a little bit earlier than usual. But let's see. King and Remsky. That's the stuff. Always enjoys the box office. Math. Mrs. Wigster. I saw Paddington 1 a few months ago and really liked it. Is the sequel any good? The sequel is good and I think builds on it. Hugh Grant is a revelation in that movie. It was a part of the series of films he did where it's like, oh man, Hugh Grant's so talented, and we never realized it before. That was one of them. That, and then he was in The Gentleman, and he's been in a bunch of other things too. That was one of those movies though, where it was like, oh, this dude can actually perform really well. Yes, I'd recommend it quite a bit. Paddington Goes to Jail. Need I say more? Hardwick. Oculus isn't as gory as Smile. Occasional gruesome imagery. I get that. It's focused psychological horror, not knowing what's real. Yeah, it's just everything that I've heard about it makes me think it's still not going to be for me, man. I appreciate it, though. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to keep selling me on it, okay? I've already said no, Hardwick. No means no, okay? Carl Jacobs. I refuse to consider movies from the 80s as being retro films. They've been considered retro for a while now, man. J.S. Pena. Ahoy. Ahoy to you. Welcome. Welcome. Hardwick. I like Anthony Mackie, but I don't think he is the same level of leading man charisma as Chris Evans. He tends to work best in supporting roles. Agreed. Especially when he's playing a role that is not meant to be played by anybody else. When we don't even have the character of Falcon fully fleshed out, I mean, how is he going to then fill the shoes of Captain America when he's still playing Falcon? That's the other issue with the movie, is that he's still playing the Falcon. Just that he's a Falcon that's been juiced up with Wakandan technology. It's kind of ridiculous in many ways. Geek True 64. I love how Disney constantly lies about their budget. News spread Disney claims, then a year later, the truth comes out. When no one cares anymore, then it all happens again. And the worst part about it is that their shareholders do not hold them accountable. It's really, really bad. Frank G said, even Grace Randolph said Cap 4's box office is really bad. Oh, man. That's surprising, especially since she was very praiseworthy of the movie. Even a broken clock could be right, at least once a day. John Evan, Retro Guy Bear. It's funny that Stranger Things is older than Cobra Kai and still hasn't finished its story, and the kids are getting a lot older. Yeah. Oh, man, there were some great flashback sequences, too, where you get to see the kids when they first started the show, and you realize just how much time has still gone by. Because, yeah, that's true about Stranger Things. But Cobra Kai, it's been around for a long time, 6 seasons, much more than 6 years, though, because there were some breaks between them, between the seasons, some longer than others. And, man, it's been amazing to see them all, grow up. And they were recently at, I think it was MegaCon. A lot of them were there. It's cool to see that they're doing those con events, and especially with the show ending, I could see them having a lot of success in the con circuit. Mrs. Wingster, but Odin is Captain Africa shrunken down on the Chinese poster? I don't know. I've heard that it's there are some posters in China where it's just a cutout of where he's supposed to be standing. I don't know if that's true or not, but it would surprise me. Jimmy A. Out of curiosity, wasn't John Campea arguing for Black Adam in that case? For some reason, I remember. Oh, dude, Jimmy A. I think you're right. Yes, that was the movie. That was the movie where there was the issue. Yes. So there was a data entry issue on Black Adam. He tried to argue that Black Adam was doing well financially, and I was like, dude, you're using completely false math. You're using bad numbers. You're using numbers that can be easily disproven if you just spend a moment off of Box Office Mojo. The issue was he only relied on Box Office Mojo. He could have easily have gone to Deadline, any of the trades, let alone the other places in general, but he did not verify his sources. And yeah, that was the movie. That was what it took me. Yes, I'm pretty sure that was the one. Guy, what's going on, Guy? Will we ever find out the true number of Captain America 4 budget? I've kind of already talked about that, about what I think about that. Alex McCarthy, what's going on, good sir? Alex McCarthy, member here on the channel. Howdy, Odin, how's it going? Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Air Force One tell a better story than Falcon Brave New World. There it is. Hardwick, in your opinion, how good is Harrison Ford's performance as Thunderbolt Ross? I can't really say as Thunderbolt Ross because in my head, there's a different actor that should be playing that character. May he rest in peace, right? He's not that. He's a completely different version of that character. So that's a big problem. You also, of course, have the issue where I am not a comics person, so I don't really know whether or not William Hurt's performance was more accurate to a comic or not. To Harrison Ford's just raw performance, I thought actually he was okay. He didn't do a terrible job. I mean, he's still Harrison Ford. He can still, he gave a lot more than I think anyone could have expected him to give for a role like this. But also, Heimdall, thank you for the reminder. If you have not voted in the Raven Awards, please do so. Voting is still open, so please vote for the best and worst of 2024. Click on that link posted at 8:20 by Heimdall. Guy, they explained his suit from Wakanda, so that was able to land like that. No, Guy, all right? So the suit in question is just the pack that has his wings, and maybe you could argue on his chest. There is no technology that goes past that area. If you actually look at what he is wearing, he is essentially just wearing regular pants. So no, that does not help to explain it at all. Retro Guy Bear, I used to watch the first Three Ninjas a lot as a kid. Yes. The first one is, I think, the best one. Rocky loves Emily. Oh, man. Yes. Rocky loves Emily. Pizza Dude. Guy, I think the next spin-off is the Kenny, Devin, and Anthony spin-off since they were teasing it. Were they teasing it? I kind of don't want them to spin it off, actually. Because the only reason why that show works is because it works within the framework of the Karate Kid. You have the original actors there. This would, if they do spin it off, it would be in a much better situation than the others, than any other type of spinoff would be, because they spent 6 seasons telling the story, completing the story, and completing the story of Johnny and the story of Daniel-san. So the characters that they have now established because of the originals and respecting them, they might be able then to do something. I just don't think they'll have as much interest, because you'll have people like me where it's like, I don't really care as much about those characters, so I don't really have a lot of reason to watch unless Daniel-san's in it. But it's like, I don't think that they're going to do that, because the whole point of the show ending is that the show is over. Geek64, having Cobra Kai creators do a Three Ninjas series would be pretty fun. Love all 3 movies, but don't talk about the 4th one with Hulk Hogan and Ernest P. Worrell. I forgot about that one. Yeah, I refuse to watch that one. The poster of that movie was enough for me. Caveat Ties, what's going on? Core member 123, what's up, core member? Then I'll just tag to say, Hit Girl for the movie Kick-Ass is an example. Yes, agreed. Jimmy A, from its trailers, Ballerina looks to be a proper way to handle a female action movie. Anna has to use her smaller stature and some weapons to her advantage. Agreed, yes. The very little we've seen from the spinoff of John Wick, Ballerina, actually does not only, one, I would argue it looks good, but 2, I think it does a great job of again, showing exactly what you just said. Wendy Hunter's back. What's up? Hardwick, the only way that they could make a fight scene with Shirahara believable is if Sabra has superpowers, which she did in the comics. She was a mutant. Luke Zilla, hello to you. Welcome. I'm still here, El Guapo. What's up, Laura? Love that movie. King and Rumsky, I have a theory. I don't think Keely Chow actually leaves. I bet he's still there lurking. Could be. Laura, is that Rocky next to the Fast and Furious box set? Yes. No. It's not Rocky. Same actor, different franchise. No, that would be Rambo. Yeah. So Rambo is right next to the tire collection of 1 through 6. The only good Fast and Furious films, 1 through 6. Winnie Hunter, I just heard on the radio that Goonies 2 has been confirmed. I'm nervous. Sure hope not. I hope that the radio was incorrect. Guy, what type of spinoffs you want Cobra Kai creator to do? Nothing from Cobra Kai, but I've already mentioned one. 3 Ninjas would I guess be cool. Justin English, what's going on? Said he liked Paddington 3. Kids loved it. Again, my son, 4-year-old, loves the first and second Paddington. He has not yet gone to a theater to watch a movie, like in the actual way. Like he's gone to, I think we were able to take him to like an IMAX showing of like dinosaurs or something like that. And he's been to a theater before for like plays, but he's never been to like a movie theater for an actual like movie. He can sit through them. Like he's been able to sit through movies since he was little. He watched all of Star Wars when he was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years old. So he's kind of already been there. This is how much I say that because this is how much I enjoy the Paddington films. I'm tempted to have Paddington 3 be his first theatrical experience. That's how good. I'll have to see it first to vet it, but that's how good the films have been. They're up there. Heartbreak Ridge, hail Odin in chat. Hail to you. Thank you again for being here. Laura saying, I would love to see Cobra Kai spinoff with Miguel, not really anyone else. The strength of the show is the ensemble. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, they could do it right with a spinoff. I think they would lose a lot of people because I think a lot of the reason why people stay is because of Johnny and Daniel's son. Gary Badger Sandwich sent you a quarter black doppelganger XDM. Okay, I'll have to check that out after. Let's see. Heartbreak Ridge says, I also wanted to say I appreciate you were able to hang later on FNT lately. Your head shaking and reacts are welcome. Yeah, I mean, I was able to, luckily with the time being a little bit more stable over recent months with it actually starting on time and close to on time and ending after a reasonable amount of time. It's been easier to schedule that in. So you'll notice that I'll be gone for like short periods of time. The longest I think is about 30 minutes because I have to help get, kids ready for bed. So, but I'm happy that I'm able to jump back on. And usually by the time I jump on, super chats are ending on YouTube and the Rumble hour is about to start. And before that, I'm usually on for a good 2.5 hours or so. Hardwick, at what point does the budget cross over from Danger Will Robinson to Oh, the Pain? For budget crossover? Oh, boy. If the movie's budget is north of $400 million, yeah, it would be really bad at that point. Geek364, I'm glad to hear Complete Unknown is good. I really want to check that one out. Yeah, I've heard good things. Kagan Rumsky, oh, you forgot to say super chat for Raichu. Oh, my goodness. Did I? I could have sworn I did. He had 2 super chats, so maybe that is the reason why. But just in case, Raichu, thank you again for that $2 super chats. Steven, what do you think will headline WrestleMania this year? Any chance it'll be CM Punk this year or Cena? I mean, they might do it. For all we know, it could be a CM Punk versus John Cena match. Now, I know that Cena wants to make another shot at the title, but I don't want him to be anywhere close to the title, and I don't think CM Punk's good enough to go for the title either. So I'd be fine with them headlining WrestleMania in like the final match, right? One of the most iconic matches, as much as I hate John Cena, no one can deny one of the most iconic matches in modern WWE history is that match between him and Punk, where Punk wins the title and leaves, right? That would be a great way, I think, to end his story. Steven, are you excited for Christopher Nolan's next movie, not Odyssey? I talked about this a little bit. Shout out to Alex Cuesta. I was on his show the other day. I've reposted it on X and other places, but really good dude. Good show. It was fun. We talked about this actually a little bit. I don't think I'm all that excited for it. Nolan, to me, has gotten more pretentious as he's gotten older. And after Oppenheimer, which I was not a huge fan of, I don't have a lot of high hopes, especially when he's casting women who think that they're men. So, Jimmy A. Honestly, Paddington would have done better on its January 17th release date. No, man, I'm telling you, January. No. January is where films go to die. Okay, and so there obviously are exceptions to that, but no, I think Christmas would have been a much better time. What say Paddington was not casting Rachel Zegler? Could be. Short. I love Johnny and Miguel's relationship. Yeah, you know what, Laura, that's a good shout. I would tweak your thing a little bit to say, so for a spinoff to work, Johnny would have to still be around. I think the show could easily succeed without the Karate Kid, without Daniel LaRusso. I honestly I'm fine without him because I don't mind him, okay? But between them two as actors, dude, Zabka's a much better actor, in my opinion, as far as like dramatic acting is concerned. So if they did a spinoff with Johnny and now he's the lead, like he's already obviously been the lead in Cobra Kai, but that I would actually be okay with. I don't think they will, though. I don't think they need to. Laura, the conversation between Johnny and Miguel on the plane made me cry. Ooh, that's a good point. Guy, the creator, said they wanted to make the 3-part model part of the final season. Yeah, again, I wasn't a fan of it. Richard Fontaine, what's nice about Rumble memberships, the channel owner gets 80% of it. That's true. Rumble's also got some other issues, though, man. Again, I appreciate Rumble as being an alternative, but all the decisions that they've been making really make me question it. They do not favor regular everyday content creators. They favor the ones that have big channel names. They offer these multi-million-dollar contracts to so many of these people, and when they finally open up like a creators program for people to like kind of get some skin in the game, they tell them, oh yeah, you have to pay, by the way, to be in the creator program, and you have to use our Rumble Studio. I'm sorry, like that to me is just like, it's a bit ridiculous. Scavola 965, Zapka was the best part of the entire show. Love the Giant Lawrence redemption arc. Yeah, seriously, it was great. Again, there's a lot of benefits to the Green Machine, no doubt about it. Hot Dog 990. Well, thank you very much for that $20 Rumble rant. Appreciate it, good sir. Glad that it came through on this side of it. Appreciate you, man. Abomination. Odin, but if you don't see Oculus, how can you give an accurate feedback about your opinion on the Sub-Saharan South African slave trade? That it is. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen that one. Mr. Wingster, good night, guys. I'm going to grab a hot shower. Hopefully you feel better. I hope you feel better as well. I do have to start to wrap things up, though, so I'm going to try and get through these as I can. Hardwick, I think same. Elliot played Ross in 2003 Hulk movie would have been a better replacement than Harrison Ford in terms of the same character. Sam Elliott wasn't in. Oh, wait, you're right. I blanked that thing out of my mind because Ang Lee's Hulk was terrible. Abomination. Well, his internal organs are also going from 100 miles per hour to 0. Do they have an excuse for why his internal organs don't just come back into his feet? That's a great point too, Abomination. But do the shelves have the same comedic timings as Forever Sci-Fi? Well, hey, my wife built them, and so if it happens, we'll know why. Geek64. That Rambo Steelbook set sells for big money on eBay. Didn't make many of them. Yeah, I actually got kind of lucky with this one too because I got onto an email list and was able to request them in time and actually got sent that thing for free. The issue is that it's damaged. But I didn't mind because I got it sent for free. Gee, there are some people that are fans of the kids like Robin. Again, I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying there are also a lot of people that would not watch. If they did a spinoff, to be honest, it would start to feel like they were milking it. So that's just my perspective. Mike Forget, yes, Goody Stew is in development. They already have a writer hired, and Christopher Columbus, Steve Spielberg are producing it. No, thank you. Jimmy A, I'm looking forward to the Odyssey. I'm a Nolan fan, and it's something my friend and I from church bond over. Tenet was peak, in my opinion. I actually did like Tenet, but I also think anyone who hated it and have a criticism of it is completely legit. Gee, I wanted Neil Patrick Harris to come back in the final season so he can see his hero win. That would be crossing too many franchises. There's another actress that would have been much more appropriate as the Miyagi-verse, especially, to be complete. That was the issue I had. Laura, lessons in inertia with Odin. Exactly. Steven, do you think we'll get a movie this year that will hit $1 billion mark at the box office? Yes. And unfortunately, the only guaranteed $1 billion film this year is going to be Avatar. I hate to say it, but I'm also not I'm not ignorant of reality like many of these mainstream media shows are. That film is going to make $1 billion. I don't want it to. It shouldn't, but it will, sadly. So that's the guaranteed $1 billion film. And if you want more, check out the podcast I was on last night. I want to make sure I am saying his name correctly. Yeah, the Alex Cuesta Show. Check out the Alex Cuesta Show on YouTube. We had a great conversation last night about the box office, but we also talked about Odyssey, and we also talked about the $1 billion films as well. So I will send you that way if you want more information. Make sure that you vote in the Raven Awards. If you've not voted for the best and worst of 2024, please make sure to do so. Clicking on that link that Heimdall just posted at 9:05 as we say our goodbyes. So I need to head out. I need to get some dessert and spend a little bit of time with the wifey because, again, I have to drive to Knoxville for work tomorrow, and I want to spend time with them. In other words, Dancing with the Smurfs. Yes, Thanatos Felicitas. Dancing with the Smurfs, absolutely. It's not guaranteed, caveat ties. I I think there's a strong chance it makes $1 billion, caveat ties. There was a debate that was on FNT about which of the 3 films would make $1 billion, whether it be Fantastic Four, Jurassic World, or Superman. Out of all 3, the one that has the best chance right now is Jurassic World. If Fantastic Four or Superman are good movies, those then become now in contention. But on the surface, with everything that we have available to us right now, Jurassic World has a great chance of making $1 billion. However, it has been law of diminishing returns every movie. The last film barely made $1 billion. It would make sense then for this one to make like 900 or 850 to 900 million also. Don't sleep on it, though. I think $1 billion is still on the table. The only one that's guaranteed, though, comfortable $1 billion right now, as of right now, that can change. But as of right now, the only one with a comfortable $1 billion guarantee is unfortunately Avatar. I hope it doesn't, but it will. Anyway, Geek264, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Luke Zilla, thanks for being here. Good night, Wendy Hunter. Ice cream. I wish I had some. Laura, sadly, I don't. Probably M&M's for me. But anyway, thank y'all guys for being here. You guys rock. It is the season of Septuagesima. A great time for us to start to prepare our minds and hearts for the season of Lent. And this has always been a lot of fun. And I appreciate y'all very much. Big crowd tonight, over 60 people watching at one point, which is very large for the Mondays. So again, thank y'all for those that did stop by. Make sure you smash the like button on the way out. Light the fire button over on Odyssey. Smash the rumble button as well. You guys are amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your night. A blessed Monday. And as always, God bless. Now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illich and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.